really what I see lacking and why I wanted to make these videos, because it's easy to say, oh, modern dating is not working. But we can also look at the divorce rate and say that marriages are not working either. But that doesn't mean that marriages are bad. Marriages are from the Lord. It's just something has to change. Hello everyone, my name is Desiree, aka Virtuous Desi. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching my channel, where I help you find your health and your happiness through videos about lifestyle, spirituality, all the things, okay? So, this is more of a lifestyle series that I have been doing called Let's Talk. And I wanted to talk about Christian dating because I feel like it is still a very hot topic, and it changes slightly from generation to generation. But in more recent years, as online dating has become almost essential for us to meet the opposite sex, I think now more than ever, it's really important to lay some foundational work of what is Christian dating and what it isn't. Not necessarily always talking about the way things should be, but how do we insert Christ into the way things are? So one of the first things that I did was I did a video I started this series with, your typical negative Christian response to what's happening, to the way things are. It is this is how it should be, so things would be better if we did this, and we need to stop doing that. Okay. So that was basically how I started out this video, with a post from a pastor saying dating is bad, courtship is good. So there's this idea and this premise that if you go into a relationship, you meet someone with the intentions of marriage, that both of you have marriage on the brain. And as you get to know each other, you don't have to waste time because you both are thinking about marriage. And you're basically the premise is that you're going to go on your feelings, right? So you're basing this on your feelings. However you feel after 6 months or so of courtship, that if everything seems to be good and you go through some premarital counseling and everything seems to be good, then therefore that's a marriage blessed of God. That's gonna succeed. Okay, that's sort of the premise that I'm getting from a lot of the conversation from certain Christian circles. There are a lot of Christian circles also and thought leaders who are giving a very practical approach to this, and I will link some of their videos and books down below. But I wanted to insert my thoughts personally and professionally from my own clinical experience. So sort of the moment you've all been waiting for, because in my second video I talked a lot about the history, just to give you an understanding that we can't just throw around terms. We have to stop throwing around terms. And this is just the teacher in me that wants people to actually learn what it is that you're talking about before you start going into throwing terms around, because all we're doing is increasing confusion, increasing shame and condemnation, and we're not really offering any real viable solutions. So in this video, I'm hoping to give you what should we be doing. Okay, and let's start right there, because I'm not trying to tell you what we should be doing. That's the problem, in my opinion, both personally and professionally. I think that there's a lot of should be happening. What the shoulds is not good for you mentally. Your own critic in your head is always talking about what you should be doing. That's not helpful, because what you should have did is gone. That opportunity is gone. Let's let that be. We need to focus on the future and what you can do. And we are not going to have a full understanding of what can be done if we're not accepting things the way they are. Okay? And so I hope, if you haven't watched that second video, I'm going to link it in the cards, because I want you to understand where a lot of this Christianese is coming from when it comes to dating, and why there's some sort of a disagreement amongst different thought leaders in Christianity, and where that kind of creates this convoluted and confusing thing, okay? I have come across a lot of, both men and women that I feel give great advice when it comes to dating, okay? And I will share their information below because I certainly don't want to reinvent the wheel. But I do want to insert some things just because I offer a unique perspective as a licensed clinical social worker and therapist that's actively practicing therapy. And I minister and talk to people who are Christians who are dating, who are Christians who are married, and they all experience unique struggles. And I want to just say here real quick that just because someone has an amazing, only God could have done it, dating and love story, that's no guarantee that their marriage will last, okay? I want us to stop seeing the wedding bells as the victory, okay? And I want y'all to think about that for a minute. I want you to stop seeing the wedding bells as the victory, the wedding pictures as the victory, okay? Pause the video if you need to kind of meditate on that with the Lord for a minute. Because I think a lot of people, both Christian leaders and singles see that as the end goal, right? How do I find someone that I'm equally yoked with that I can get married to? But that's not the end of the story. The story extends far beyond that, meaning that what you do in that God-given relationship is just as important as everything you do beforehand. And so the advice I'm going to give has a lot to do with your mindset. So how do Christians date? Well, one of the biggest issues with our relationships, male and female, is that we've allowed the mindset of the world to infiltrate our Christian culture. We've allowed the mindset of the world to infiltrate our Christian culture. And this is really important because you really need to evaluate your thoughts and opinions on the opposite sex, your thoughts and opinions on dating, and your thoughts and opinions on marriage, and how much of the world has influenced those things. I could share with you several scriptures talking about do not have sex before marriage, do not enter into, don't fornicate, basically. There's a lot of, sexual relationships that shouldn't happen, period. But even between a man and a woman, before marriage, yes, there shouldn't be any sex. But fornication is deeper than just having sex with someone before marriage. The idea of it is sort of this promiscuity, okay? Because a committed relationship and a marriage in the eyes of God is very different than having a sheet of paper that you get from the government, right? So without getting all into that, I think that when two people are in love and are in a committed relationship, whatever that means for you, that's not what we're talking about when we say fornication. We're talking about the sexual revolution, okay? Because a lot of the cultural influences that's created so much confusion is that you have what I believe is a principality, okay? It's a dark principality in a way of thinking where we've allowed the world to tell our men that there is danger in marriage, there's danger in commitment, and you don't really have to commit to get what you want. And on the other end, the world has taught women to use their bodies and lead with their sexuality in order to influence and control men. And we've been told that's good for us because that gives us an equal playing field. So women have been on this pursuit to be able to do what we want to do without the consequences, just like we feel like men can do whatever they want to do and they don't have the consequences of a pregnancy. That's the whole premise of abortion. Is that, my body, my choice. Women want a choice. They want to be able to act as a man and do the things that a man does without the natural biological consequences that come along with that as a woman. So if we're really putting aside all of the politics of it and the emotions and the shame, I think, even involved in that, if you did have an abortion, I think if we're just honest about what this is really all about and look at it from that perspective, there's a lot of healing that can take place mentally. Again, I believe that there's a lot of inner work, a lot of mental work. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a mental health professional. I'm saying that even personally, I've had to double check my perspectives as a Christian and reconcile that with the influences of the world. Because even as a woman who has saved herself for marriage, as someone who has done what a lot of people haven't been able to do, I still find myself influenced by this idea that I am measured by my sensuality. I'm measured by leading sort of with that presence of my sexuality, whether I'm having sex or not. And I had to recognize that even within myself, that when I'm flirting, there's nothing wrong with flirting, by the way. Flirting is good. Flirting is healthy. But when I'm flirting, am I flirting from a place of fun and purity, so to speak? Or am I flirting with this sort of dark intentions, hoping that they will kind of know what's in store for them if they marry me? You know what I'm saying? So I hope that wasn't confusing. But what I'm trying to say is that no matter your pure intentions and how you're living your life, there's a possibility that you are influenced by the world in some way, you know, because you're around it. You're soaking it in, movies, music, you know, conversation that is influenced by movies and music. That's why those things were created I shouldn't say that's why they were created. Music and movies were not created for that. But the reason why the enemy has been very careful and very studious in infiltrating those things is because music is very powerful, and what you see, storytelling is very powerful. Those are, you know, music and storytelling are very ancient ways of passing on culture, right? Language, values, customs, traditions. That's the essence of culture, right? And so I'm thankful for my background as a social worker because I'm able to see these things very clearly, but I want to help you see those things clearly. So if there's anything that I'm saying that's confusing, please feel free to leave questions down below. So what I'm saying is that it's really hard for us to just live our lives, go to church, read our Bibles, and pray, and not somewhat be influenced by the world if we're not made aware of it. It needs to be in our conscious awareness. We need to do an inventory, you know, and a reevaluation sort of how we're thinking, feeling, and choosing. Okay, thinking, feeling, and choosing. Because those are really the essence of the decisions that we make, the feelings in which we go into a dating relationship. Because if you have men who are afraid of commitment, and you also have women who are trying to be like men, then you have this whole system where women are putting out without any ring on it, any commitment from the man. So even women like me who are demanding a higher standard, we become lower value because the demand is for the women who are more loose. And this isn't to say that, you know, as Christians, we don't necessarily compare ourselves to the world. If a woman wants to have sex with whoever and she doesn't care, go ahead, do your thing. But as Christians, and that's who I'm talking to, I don't think we realize how much we're affected by that mindset and that culture, and to the degree in which Christians have participated in this activity of promiscuity, because we believe that that's really the only way to do it, or, you know, everyone's doing it, and that, oh yeah, you really gotta love the God. I mean, I hear Christian people say this. You really have to love God in order to wait, and this is how deluded we've become, you guys. I mean, it's the truth. It's how deluded we've become, and then we wonder why we struggle in dating because we're not doing it God's way. We're not. So Christians are not able to lead by example because we have not surrendered our sexuality to God. We have not surrendered our pursuit of love and marriage to God. We haven't. We want to do things our way. We want to do things to be straightforward. We want to do things the world's way. Okay. We want the instant gratification. You know, we want the Instagram photos and pictures. We want to be able to satisfy our secret desires and lust. You know, but there has been consequences for that. And that's what we're seeing on a global scale, in a national scale, and in our communities, where there's this so much struggle in dating, and we talk about online dating, or we talk about modern dating, and we're talking about all of these things that are just tools in which a man and a woman get to know each other for the intentions of marriage. But they are not the enemy. They're just tools. The enemy, you guys, is your mind. Okay? I want you to see the cycle of there's really no need for commitment because women are putting out. And then men are afraid of commitment. Or it's not that they're afraid of commitment. It's just that there's really an uncertainty about marriage. Women more than men initiate divorce. So there's this whole thing where, why would I commit? What is in it for me? Because it seems like I have children with you, I produce with you, but I lose everything. So why would a man want to commit to marriage? Okay? And, these are overgeneralizations, but I talk to a lot of young men whose hearts have been broken by young ladies who changed their mind. Everyone has a right to change their mind. But I'm starting to see, talking to a lot of these 19-year-olds and 21-year-olds, these are men who thought this was the one. They wanted to marry these girls. They weren't afraid of commitment. They wanted it. But they got hurt. And my job is to help them not get jaded and lose their faith in love. Because, believe it or not, men take loss of a relationship. When a man loves a woman and he finally gets to that place in his heart where he's ready to commit, that's a huge thing. And they take that pain a lot deeper than I think people realize. And I get to see into that world as a counselor. But it's very tragic when that loss happens and you see that young man who was willing to be that husband, willing to be that father for the rest of his life to this one woman whose heart gets broken. And I understand how they lose their faith in love pretty early on, and so you have older guys maybe who women are getting jaded by, who seem like they're afraid of commitment. I should say seem like they're afraid of commitment, not that they are actually afraid of commitment. Even though the world does make it not attractive. Okay. Marriage has not been made attractive. Relationships have, but not marriage. Okay. And again, that is the world system, right? And we as Christians should not even be a part of that. I'm not sitting here trying to even figure out how the world needs to regulate itself. That is not what this conversation is about, because that's a whole nother thing. I do that in my counseling sessions, but that's time. That's like 45-minute, 1 hour conversations. That's not what this is, okay? As Christians, we've been handed a value system. We don't have to figure it out, is what I'm saying. So we know what our values should be according to the Word of God, right? We know the ideals in which we're living up to. But that walking it out and surrendering it to Christ and willingness to go through the process, that's going to require a shift in our mindset and how we see love, marriage, and relationships, and detaching ourselves from this world system and way of thinking in ways that I haven't even begun to describe here. I've given some generalizations as far as just, putting the cart before the horse and all of that sort of thing. But it's deeper than just that. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of wounds. And online dating, because you're encountering so many people who are hurt and who are wounded, they also go through this process of, all women are this, or all men are this. I mean, this is what they go through. And, with online dating, and that just perpetuates the whole cycle, right? That's why we're sitting here. That's why you're watching this video. That's why we're sitting here right now, because there's something that is a complete mess out there. People are getting hurt and wounded. And yes, we need to take time to heal our hearts in your brokenness. That is a numero uno. But if we get back out there with the same mindset, you're only going to repeat this process. So it requires a complete shift amongst a group of people. And I think that that's why you don't hear this a lot, because it's easy to say, like I said in the beginning, it's easy to say, okay, modern dating is wrong. Online dating is wrong. You need to wait on the Lord. You don't need to be, a woman should be waiting and have her husband find her. And I even wrote a blog post about this, because a husband, a man, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. But who is this he? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And where are the men at? Because they're not in church. So what are you talking about? Again, if we're trying to be practical here and also full of the Spirit and full of faith, we have to accept things for the way they are if we hope to bring about change. We can't create change if you're not able to truly see things as they are, and stop living in this fantasy world of how they should be. Okay? We know the expectation of God. We know the heart of Christ. Okay? But we can't take these numbered sound bites in the Bible and create a whole theology about how modern dating should be. I think that's a mistake. I think that what needs to happen is that we're looking at things the way they are. It's not likely you're going to meet someone in person these days for a number of reasons, not to mention we're in the middle of a pandemic still. But there's also just hurt. There's pain. There's some timidness there. Not everybody is out in areas where they're going to meet the opposite sex. Church is not always the best place either. Most men who go to church are married already. There are single men there. Not saying that there's not. I'm talking about the big picture here, you guys. Okay? You can't just go by your local mega church that you happen to go to. Most people are not living in that world. We can't just give advice based off some scriptures and then expect to apply that to a whole vast amount of people in different situations. So looking at things the way they are, and then saying, what is the heart of Christ in this? Okay? And that's what I hope I was able to share with you today. Specifically talking about what the world has been saying about dating and relationships, and what we as Christians need to be striving for in dating and relationships. Because that's what one of the biggest struggles, I think, is that when you have two people, a man and a woman, approaching a relationship together, even if they both believe in Jesus, even if they both happen to be believers, to what degree are they really having a laid down life for Christ? I know it sounds simple, but if we start there, we will begin to see the changes, okay? Because the times of believing that your own individual choices have nothing to do with anyone else, those times are over, y'all. It is clear that the decisions that we have made, generations before us have made, have impacted all of us, okay? Emulating the world, where has that left us? Where is that leaving our children? So I know this was somewhat of a long video, but I did want to share with you some of my thoughts on Christian dating and where things need to change, where things need to go. And I wanted to sort of have this chat because this is a less talk. This isn't something I wanted to have scripted. This isn't something I wanted to have too formal. It's just a chat. Because I'm not claiming to have all of the answers, and anyone who does, mark that person and stay away from them, because you'll see in some of my comment sections, people will have figured it all out. This is why people are still single, blah, 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 blah. And anyone who claims to have all the answers or to know it all, that's not someone that can help you. This requires a discussion. This requires a conversation, okay? I need to hear from you as much as you need to hear from me. What I'm encountering out here in dating is a lot of need for instant. Yeah, I would love to have these things. I would love to have the wife. I would love to have the kids. I want to settle down. But people are getting older and older and older and older, and all they're doing is getting into relationships to see what they can get out of a person, to see what might kind of sort of happen. This is the habit. that especially men, but women too, this is the habit they've gotten into. You know, I don't want to get hurt, so therefore, you know, women have their approach and men have their approach, but both of us have this thing in common where we're trying to avoid getting hurt. We want a particular person, you know, we might have a specific ideal that might not even be realistic. There's a lot of things that I can get into that I didn't get into in this video, but my point was that a mindset shift is where we're going to see the greatest amount of change. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What challenges have you experienced in dating? What are your thoughts on what the heck is going on out there? I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, especially if you've made it this far in the video. If you have not done so already, please like and subscribe if this video has been helpful for you, or you can give it a thumbs down if it hasn't been helpful for you. But please leave a comment below. Regardless, leave a comment below. It's really helpful for me to know your thoughts and what you're thinking. I love to have conversations. I don't just like talking at people. So this is another video in the Let's Talk series, and I hope that you guys have found this series to be beneficial and helpful. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to leave links below to other YouTubers who I feel have great testimonies to share, great things to say about singleness in modern America. They're very practical yet scriptural, and that's what I love. It's not a fantasy world of how it should be or trying to live back in the past. It is accepting things for the way they are right now, but it's also giving us some great scriptural foundations to understand the heart of Christ in all of this. And that's what I believe in too. Not the shouldas, but what is the heart of Christ for you? All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye.